And yes, there were people living in some of the areas that they colonized, and they got into fights with those people, and they kicked them out, and they conquered the land.
All right, folks, buckle up. We're diving into a clip today that's, well, it's certainly got some tats, let's just say. We're talking about Greenland, national security, and some good old-fashioned American expansionism. Now, when I hear expansionism, my ears perk up, and usually not in a good way. But this guy seems to think it's the bee's knees. Let's see what he's got to say.
So to now sound so scandalized by the very idea of it. Okay, Trump's expansionist ambitions continue, and I say that approvingly, very approvingly. But I use the word expansionist not as a dirty word, unlike how many people use it.
Okay, so right out of the gate, we're getting a full-throttle endorsement of expansionist ambitions. And he's clarifying that expansionist isn't a dirty word for him. Well, I've got news for you, buddy. For a lot of us in the 21st century, expansionist absolutely is a dirty word. It brings up images of colonial empires, land grabs, and a whole lot of human suffering that we, as a global society, have largely agreed is not a great look anymore. When you talk about acquiring land, especially from a NATO ally like Denmark, through military options or operations, or even just strong arming, it's not just about national security priorities. It's about international norms, sovereignty, and basic flat-out respect. We're not in the 18th century anymore, where nations just waltz in and buy or take whatever they fancy. There are people living there with their own culture, with their own self-determination. You can't just treat land like a monopoly board, especially when it's already occupied and governed. To approve of expansionist ambitions without even a nod from the complexities of modern international relations or historical baggage that term carries feels incredibly naive at best and dangerously regressive at worst. It's like saying, hey, manifest destiny was a pretty neat idea. Let's bring it back. Nah, no thanks. We've learned a few things since then. It's not just about what we want. It's about how we operate in the world, full of other sovereign nations. This isn't a game of risk. It's real life with real consequences for global stability and human rights. We've moved beyond the might makes right era, or at least we should have, don't you think?
The BBC reports U.S. President Donald Trump has been discussing a range of options to acquire Greenland, including using the military, the White House said. The White House told the BBC that acquiring Greenland, a semi-autonomous region of fellow NATO member Denmark, was a national security priority. Statement comes after European leaders issued a joint statement rallying behind Denmark, which has been pushing back against Trump's ambitions for the Arctic. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also told lawmakers at a classified briefing on Capitol Hill on Monday that the Trump administration did not plan to invade Greenland, but he mentioned instead buying the island from Denmark. So that's what Rubio was talking about, is buying it. And here is Trump on Air Force One talking about it.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland?
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
Yes, clearly, if we can acquire Greenland, we should. There's almost no downside. It is that clear. And Trump focuses on the national defense advantages, which are very real. Greenland is a crucial staging ground for missile defense, also space surveillance. But there are also the natural resources, which are largely untapped, oil and gas, uranium, rare earth elements, minerals, fresh water. Greenland holds like 5 to 10% of the fresh water on Earth. So lots of resources. And then there are the economic benefits beyond the resource, namely control over Arctic shipping lanes, very substantial. There's the strategic benefits, which are very clear, totally undeniable. And the people who laugh it off just don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay, which is fine. I mean, not knowing much about Greenland is not a character flaw. That's most people don't know anything about it. That's fine. You can admit that. When the topic first came up of acquiring Greenland, the vast majority of people hear that as like, I don't know anything about Greenland. And yet everyone thinks they have to have an opinion about it right away. And the opinion of a lot of people is, well, we shouldn't do that. We don't need Greenland. That's ridiculous. Oh, really? Why? Why shouldn't we do it? Why is it ridiculous? I mean, because it's Greenland. You have no clue what you're talking about. None, and you know it. And I don't pretend to be a Greenland expert myself. I'm not. But the little bit I've looked into it, I see, they basically, the Trump administration talks about acquiring Greenland. They present their case. So I listen to the case, and then I go, okay, well, if that makes sense, like if all those, you're laying out like obvious strategic and economic benefits of acquiring Greenland, I'll go look into it myself. It's like, yes, that appears to check out. But I also think there's another value that Greenland holds. There's another value in general to Trump's expansionism. And I talked about this last year when they first started talking about Greenland and they were talking about Panama and all of that. And I haven't heard very many other people talk about this aspect of it. I think I saw a post from Mike Cernovich, I think, who posted something on X about it. But not very many other people are tapping into this, which is the intangible value. And I understand that from a political perspective, if you're the Secretary of State or the President of the United States, you're probably not going to list this as one of the reasons. But there is also the intangible value that is very real of the life, the hope, the excitement that you bring to a nation and to a people by expanding, by acquiring new land, by acquiring new opportunities. And I realize that if you're a silly person, if you're a superficial, dumb person, and you hear that, you scoff at it. And you go, what is that? Who cares about that? Who cares about just like the spiritual health of a nation? But for most of human history, people would have instinctively understood this. That's what healthy countries do, okay? It's what empires do, and America is an empire. It always has been. It is encoded in our national DNA that if we are not exploring, if we are not expanding, if we're not going north and going south and going up into space, if we aren't going anywhere, then we're dying.
Whoa, hold on a minute. Let me understand this. What you're saying is America is an empire. It always has been. And if we're not expanding, then we're dying? Wow, that's a pretty dramatic take. And frankly, a deeply problematic one. Equating national vitality with territorial expansion is straight out of the 19th century playbook, not a modern understanding of global powers or national identity. America's strength today isn't measured by how much land we conquer or buy, but by our inventions, our democratic values, or our soft power and our ability to forge alliances. It's our national DNA really about constantly gobbling up new territories? Or is it about striving for a more perfect union, protecting rights, and leading by example? I'd argue it's the latter, not some crazy hunger for more acreage. This idea that a nation is dying if it's not constantly expanding sounds less like a geopolitical strategy and more like a corporate growth model applied to entire countries. It's a zero-sum game mentality that ignores the immense human cost of historical expansionist. The displacement, the violence, the culture insurance, that often comes with it. We should be learning from those mistakes, not yearning to repeat them.
Right? It's funny when I hear people, even conservatives, get so scandalized by Trump's expansionist ambitions, these weak, feeble little naysayers that I'm so tired of these people. I'm so sick of them. And the people on the left, I don't care. I mean, obviously they're going to, who cares what they say? A lot of people on the right too, including people who I thought were like pretty right-wing, pretty based. Even they're saying, that's not who we are. That's not America. What right do we have? Oh, no, that's exactly who we are, you dummy. This is America. This is what America has always been. Do you know anything about American history? Do you know what the hell are you talking about? Do you know anything about this country? Really? Do you know anything about your own country? America was born in expansionism. To sit here now and say, well, expansionism is wrong. What are you talking about? This country would not exist without it. America thrived, became a world power through expansionism. You cannot claim to be an American patriot and have some kind of like fundamental problem with expansionism. Because what you're saying is America has no right to exist. What you're saying is that America has no right to exist. Expansion through buying new land, through conquering new land, through fighting, killing, bargaining. We've done it all, okay? This country has done it all. We've done it in every way possible. We would not exist without it. And I swear some of you right-wing weaklings sound like full-on white guilt leftists at this point. You're about to break into land acknowledgments. I mean, it's mind-boggling. That's what's happening next. I'm going to start hearing these people do land acknowledgments. Okay, now that doesn't mean that every expansionist dream that someone comes up with, that Trump or anyone else comes up with, doesn't mean it's automatically the right move. There could be things you would do in the name of expansionism that would be a bad move, that would be wrong. We can have that argument. I'm not saying that. But the arguments that I'm hearing from a lot of people are like, you are fundamentally opposing the very idea of expansionism, of conquest. You're opposing the very idea of it, which if you claim to be an America First patriot, is just like, it's not a valid position. You can't, because you are opposing the very essence of America. You're opposing America itself. To begin with, Europeans colonized and conquered the East Coast of what would become America from Maine to Georgia, and that's to say nothing of all the land that was claimed by France and other European powers. And so that's to begin with. Like, as the left often points out with their dumb little land acknowledgments, we came, as in European pioneers and settlers, explorers, came to this land, and they colonized it and they conquered it. And yes, there were people living in some of the areas that they colonized, and they got into fights with those people, and they kicked them out, and they conquered the land. So to now sound so scandalized by the very idea of it. It's like, well, that's the way the world has always worked. That's how this country would not exist without it. So, and then and it didn't stop there, obviously, right? I mean, after the revolution, we immediately expanded, like hungrily. As soon as this country was a country, we were hungry to expand. Yeah, the Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the country in 1803. And then we acquire Florida, and the annexation of Texas, and the Oregon Treaty, the Mexican-American War, where we won California and Arizona and New Mexico and Nevada and Utah through blood, fought and killed for it. Purchase of Alaska in the 1860s, the annexation of Hawaii. We built the Panama Canal and controlled it for basically the entire 20th century. I mean, this is just a partial list. I mean, this is a partial list that brings us only to about 1914 with the opening of the Panama Canal. This is how America came to be. This is how America became a superpower. This is what America is and has always been, and I'm proud of that. To me, I'm not ashamed of that. This is what we need, especially if you claim to be an America First patriot. Again, it doesn't mean you have to support every single thing the president does. It doesn't mean you can't make intelligent arguments against certain things. There might be an intelligent argument against acquiring Greenland. I don't know what it is. Again, I think very clearly we should acquire it if we can. For all the the benefits are very clear. But maybe this argument, I'm willing to listen to it. But we have to get to a point where we can say, you know what? This country was born through conquest, fighting, dying, yes, killing for the land that we have now. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to live here. I'm grateful for it, more importantly. It's not anything I did, but I'm grateful for all the effort that was taken. And now we have to ask, has history really ended? And now all that is in the past. The rules have totally changed arbitrarily somehow in the 20th century at some point. The rules completely changed, and conquest and expansionism was the way of the world for thousands of years. And then at some point in the late 20th century, it just stopped.
Okay, so the argument here is that conquest and expansionism was the way of the world for thousands of years, and then it just stopped? And now we're in a new reality where none of that counts anymore? Well, yes. Actually, yeah. That's precisely what happened. And it wasn't arbitrary. It was a conscious, hard-won evolution in international law and global ethics, largely driven by the catastrophic consequences of 2 world wars. After the horrors of the 20th century, nations collectively said, hey, wait, maybe constant conquest and territorial grabs aren't the best way to ensure global peace and stability. Who would have thunk it? That's when the United Nations was formed, international treaties were signed, and the concept of national sovereignty became a cornerstone of global order. It wasn't some magical threshold. It was a deliberate effort to build a more peaceful world. To dismiss this entire historical shift as if the rules have totally changed arbitrarily is to ignore decades of diplomatic effort and the very foundations of modern international relations. It's like saying, well, people used to settle disputes with duels. Why stop? Because we evolved. We realized there are better, less violent ways to solve issues. And this idea that the American spirit is still about conquering and colonizing even other planets, it's a dangerous fantasy. The American spirit at its best is about innovation, freedom, and democratic ideas, not about planting flags on other people's lands or bodies. We should be striving for cooperation and exploration, not conquest. Pretending the world hasn't changed is just a convenient excuse to justify outdated, aggressive impulses. It's not about being weak. It's about being civilized people.
And now we're all of a sudden in a new reality where none of that counts anymore, and you can't do any of that anymore. Is that the case? When did we cross that magical threshold? When did we walk through that magical door? I don't remember it. I think we're still living in the world. I think we're still living on the globe, and the realities of the world still apply. And one of those realities is that, especially for America, especially the American spirit is one of expanding, exploring, conquering, not being satisfied, not just looking at, well, this is our little plot of land here, and let's just leave it at that. That's never been the American spirit, ever. And it can't be. And so I support it, as I've said, on those grounds alone. Truly. That's why I also am a big supporter of, I think we should be going in space. I think trying to make it to other planets, colonize other planets. I'm a big supporter of that. Why? Because that's American. That's what Americans do.
Phew. That was a wild ride through some very, very traditional views on global power. It's fascinating how some folks cling to those old ideas of empire and conquest, while the rest of the world has largely moved on, or at least is trying to. We clearly need to distinguish between genuine strategic national interest and thinly veiled nostalgia for a bygone era of unchecked power. So tell me, what do you think? Is expansionism a dirty word, or is it just what empires do? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for some straight talk, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next breakdown. See you on the next time.